September 19th, 1961. A dark, winding road snaking through the White Mountains of New Hampshire. An ordinary American couple returning home from a short vacation in Canada. They're tired but happy. A few hours of driving ahead, then a warm bed. They don't know yet that this night will change their lives forever, that their names will go down in history, that decades later researchers, scientists, and curious people around the world will rack their brains over what actually happened on that deserted road. Barney and Betty Hill, ordinary people who became part of an extraordinary story. The first widely documented case of alien abduction in the history of the United States. 3 hours of their lives vanished without a trace, simply evaporated. And when those hours were finally recovered, something so strange emerged that scientists are still debating it today. But before we dive into the events of that fateful night, you need to understand one important thing about the Hills themselves. Because without this context, the whole story looks completely different. And trust me, this context will surprise you. Forget everything you think you know about people who claim to have encountered UFOs. Barney and Betty Hill don't fit any stereotype. Barney was an African American who worked at the post office. Betty was a white woman, a social worker. In early 60s America, interracial marriage was unthinkable. In many states, such unions were simply illegal. The Hills constantly faced prejudice and open hostility. These were not eccentric dreamers. Barney was a civil rights activist. Betty participated in social assistance programs. Both were members of the Unitarian Church and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Serious, responsible people with impeccable reputations. People who already attracted enough unwanted attention simply because they dared to love each other despite social norms. So now ask yourself, what reason would such people have to make up a story about alien abduction? In an era when such claims could completely destroy a career and reputation? Moreover, for several years after the incident, the Hills didn't seek publicity at all. The story became public almost by accident. Remember this, because when you hear what they revealed under hypnosis, the question of motivation becomes key. But for now, let's return to that deserted road in the White Mountains, where it all began. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, south of the town of Lancaster, Betty noticed a bright, glowing point in the sky. At first, she took it for a shooting star or satellite. But the strange thing was that the object moved erratically, up, down, sharply to the side. Barney, who was driving, was skeptical of his wife's observations. An airplane, a helicopter, an optical illusion. Anything but what you're thinking. But the object didn't disappear. Moreover, it seemed to be following their car. The couple stopped several times. Betty observed the strange light through binoculars. The object was real, and it was getting closer. Somewhere near Indian Head, a rock formation resembling the profile of a Native American, something incredible happened. The glowing object descended sharply and hovered directly over the road, just a few dozen meters from the car. Barney stopped the car in the middle of the highway, got out, grabbed the binoculars, and what he saw haunted him for the rest of his life. It wasn't an airplane. Before him hung a huge, flat, disc-shaped object. Multicolored lights glowed around its edges, But the most terrifying thing, in the portholes of the object, Barney could see figures, beings in tight black suits. Their huge dark eyes stared directly at H. Seized by panic, Barney rushed back to the car. He was screaming, "They're going to capture us." He floored the gas pedal, drove the car away at full speed. And here's where the story gets truly strange, because the couple's next memory is of a completely different place. 50 kilometers to the south, a strange sound enveloping the car, and the feeling that something had happened, something important, something they couldn't remember. 3 hours of their lives simply vanished, and what they discovered at home only intensified the horror. When the Hills finally reached Portsmouth, it was almost 5 in the morning. Even accounting for all the stops, the drive should have taken no more than 4 hours. About 7 had passed. 3 hours, a black hole in their memory. But that was just the beginning. Barney discovered that the strap of his binoculars was torn, though he didn't remember how it happened. Both of their shoes had strange scuff marks. Betty's dress was torn along the zipper, and Barney's wristwatch had stopped and would never work again. The strangest thing was found on the car's trunk, mysterious shiny spots that hadn't been there before. When Betty held a compass near them, the needle began spinning wildly. What happened during those 3 hours? Barney and Betty didn't know. Only vague images at the edge of consciousness. A sense of something disturbing, something suppressed. But the worst part came later, because Betty's mind refused to stay silent. Every night she was visited by nightmares, so vivid and detailed that she began recording them in a diary. And the contents of those dreams, let's just say, if Betty had shown that diary to any psychiatrist of the time, she would have been hospitalized immediately. But she didn't, not yet. In her dreams, Betty found herself aboard a spacecraft. Beings with gray skin and huge eyes performed procedures on her, inserted a needle into her abdomen, examined her hair, skin, teeth. These dreams were so realistic that the line between nightmare and memory began to blur. Barney reacted differently. He tried to suppress what had happened, convinced himself that the beings in the portholes were imaginary, that there would be a rational explanation for the missing time. But his body told a different story. Barney developed a stomach ulcer. His blood pressure spiked. Insomnia and unexplained anxiety became constant companions. Something was tormenting him, something he couldn't remember but couldn't forget. For 2 years the couple kept their story secret, told only a few close friends, but rumors spread. And when the story reached certain people, the Hills were offered something unexpected: hypnosis, a way to look into those missing 3 hours. Barney agreed, not because he wanted to prove anything to the world. He agreed because he could no longer live with this black hole in his memory, with this feeling that his mind was hiding something terrible from him. And when the psychiatrist finally opened that door, behind it lay something no one was prepared for, not even the psychiatrist himself. The doctor the Hills consulted deserves special mention, because he was no charlatan or sensation seeker. Benjamin Simon, a respected Boston psychiatrist. During World War II, he used hypnosis to treat soldiers with combat trauma. His methods were recognized by the medical community. Simon approached the case skeptically. He didn't believe in aliens. He suspected the couple's problems had a purely psychological explanation. His goal to help Barney cope with anxiety, not to prove the existence of extraterrestrials. The sessions were conducted with unprecedented rigor. Barney and Betty were questioned separately. After each session, they were given post-hypnotic suggestions for temporary amnesia. They didn't remember what they had said and couldn't discuss it with each other. Perfect experimental conditions. No mutual influence. No possibility of coordinating their stories. And here's what amazed even the skeptical, Dr. Simon. The stories told by the couple independently of each other matched in key details. What emerged from the depths of their memory went beyond anything the experienced psychiatrist had encountered in decades of practice. Get ready, because now we're going to hear what Barney and Betty revealed during those sessions. And I'm warning you, this isn't for the faint of heart. Under hypnosis, Barney and Betty recalled the missing 3 hours, every minute of them. According to their accounts, after the object hovered over the road, their car was stopped by a group of beings, humanoids of small stature, about 5 feet tall, with gray skin and huge almond-shaped eyes. No emotions, no aggression, only cold, methodical determination. The beings led the paralyzed couple aboard their craft. There they were separated. Barney described how his body was examined like a laboratory specimen. Bone structure, skin, reproductive system. He recalled terror and complete inability to resist, as if his will had been switched off. Betty underwent a more detailed examination. Samples of skin and hair, a long needle inserted into her navel area. The beings explained, a pregnancy test. When Betty screamed in pain, one of them, the one she perceived as the leader, passed his hand over her forehead. The pain vanished instantly. But the most astonishing episode is yet to come, because Betty claimed she was shown something that a simple housewife from New Hampshire couldn't possibly have known, something that wouldn't be decoded until 7 years later, and that revelation would shake even convinced skeptics. During the examination, Betty managed to communicate with the leader. She asked where they came from. The being showed her a 3-dimensional map, a holographic projection of the starry sky. Lines connected various stars, trade routes, research expeditions, places of origin. Where are you from? Betty repeated. Do you know where you are on this map? The being responded. Betty didn't know. Then there's no point in explaining, the being said. After the hypnosis sessions, Betty drew this map from memory. Several stars connected by lines. A strange pattern that meant nothing to astronomers of that time. Nothing until 1968. A school teacher and amateur astronomer named Marjorie Fish became interested in Betty's drawing. She spent years creating 3-dimensional models of the sun's neighborhood, looking for an angle from which the stars would align into this pattern. And she found it. According to Fish's interpretation, the map depicted the Zeta Reticuli system, a binary star in the constellation Reticulum, located about 39 light-years from Earth. The lines connected stars similar to the Sun, potentially habitable systems. How could a housewife from New Hampshire in 1961 know about the positioning of stars, data about which was only obtained through satellite research? Ufologists celebrated, but skeptics didn't give up, and their arguments deserve attention because they're quite compelling too. Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer, subjected Fish's interpretation to serious criticism. In any sufficiently large set of points, you can find a pattern matching virtually any drawing. This is called apophenia, the brain's tendency to see patterns where none exist. Try it yourself. Take random dots on paper. You'll surely find a familiar constellation. Dr. Simon, who conducted the hypnosis, never believed in aliens until the end of his life. In his opinion, Barney unconsciously adopted details from Betty's dreams, which she had told him before the therapy. There's another fact that supporters of the alien version rarely mention. 12 days before the incident, television aired an episode of The Outer Limits, the Belero Shield. It featured an alien being with huge wraparound eyes, an image strikingly similar to Barney's descriptions. Coincidence? Or subconscious borrowing from popular culture? And here's something else. Modern science knows something important about hypnosis, something that turns the whole story upside down. And we need to discuss this separately. Here's what scientists have discovered in recent decades. Hypnosis is an unreliable method for recovering memory. Moreover, it can create false memories. Under hypnosis, a person becomes susceptible to leading questions and their own expectations. If they believe something happened, hypnosis can fill in the gaps with fabricated details. Details that the brain perceives as genuine memories. The person isn't lying, they sincerely remember. But these memories are constructions created by the subconscious. Today, testimony obtained under hypnosis is not accepted in most courts worldwide, precisely because it's unreliable. Does this mean the Hills made everything up? Not necessarily, but it means the details of their story, the procedures, the beings, the map could have been constructed by their own minds, based on Betty's dreams, images from popular culture, suppressed fears. Or they might not have been. That's the problem. We can't know for sure. But there are a few more theories worth considering, and one of them relates to a phenomenon experienced by millions of people around the world, often without understanding what's happening to them. Have you heard of sleep paralysis? It's a state between sleep and wakefulness when a person can't move. Muscles are paralyzed, but consciousness is awake. Often this is accompanied by hallucinations, a sense of presence, pressure on the chest, visions of strange beings. People describe this in terms of abduction, inability to move, hostile entities, manipulations with the body. Cultural context determines how the brain interprets the experience. In medieval times, these were demons and incubi. In the 21st century, aliens. Perhaps the Hills experienced something real that night, an unusual atmospheric phenomenon, a military aircraft from a secret program, or simply a moment of extreme stress on a deserted night road. This could have triggered a cascade of psychological reactions. Dissociative amnesia, a defense mechanism of the psyche. Betty's nightmares, Barney's anxiety, and hypnosis, instead of recovering memory, crystallized scattered images into a coherent narrative about abduction. But here's what's interesting. Regardless of what actually happened, the Hill case launched a wave that changed all of culture. And this influence is still felt today, possibly even in your favorite movies and shows. Before 1961, aliens in popular consciousness looked different. Tall humanoids of Nordic appearance, space brothers carrying messages of peace, warnings about nuclear war. After the Hill case, the paradigm shifted. Friendly aliens were replaced by greys, small beings with disproportionately large heads, huge black eyes, cold researchers conducting experiments on helpless humans. This image became dominant. The X-Files, Independence Day, countless books, series, comics. Greys are everywhere. The Hill case also established the template for abduction: glowing object, missing time, memories under hypnosis, medical procedures, alien interest in human reproduction. Thousands of people worldwide subsequently reported similar experiences. Exactly the same details, exactly the same beings. Were they inspired by the Hill story? Or were the Hills simply the first to publicly share a phenomenon that had always existed? Chicken or egg? We don't know. But the story of Barney and Betty doesn't end there, because their subsequent fate adds several more layers to an already complex mystery. Barney Hill died in February 1969. A cerebral hemorrhage. He was only 46. Betty outlived her husband by almost 40 years. Until her death in 2004, she remained an active member of the ufology community. But in her later years, her claims became increasingly extravagant. She claimed to regularly see UFOs, photographed spacecraft that skeptics interpreted as streetlights or film defects. This undermined her credibility in the eyes of serious researchers. But the core of the story, the events of that September night in '61, remains a mystery. The site of the alleged contact is marked with a memorial sign. Every year, hundreds of people visit. Convinced ufologists, ordinary tourists. Everyone wants to touch the legend. And the night sky over the White Mountains is still full of stars. Let's sum up. What do we know for certain? Barney and Betty Hill existed. They really were driving through the White Mountains on September 19th, 1961. They arrived home significantly later than they should have. Both experienced psychological problems after the trip. Under hypnosis, they independently told similar stories. What don't we know? What actually happened during those missing hours? Real contact? A complex hallucination? A false memory? Something we don't yet have a name for? Skeptics will say, an ordinary explanation is always preferable to an extraordinary one. No evidence, no aliens. Believers will counter, absence of explanation isn't refutation. The universe is too vast for our understanding, and somewhere between them we remain, with our questions, with our curiosity, with our eternal striving to understand whether we're alone. Maybe Barney and Betty met visitors from another world. Maybe their minds played a cruel trick on them. Or maybe, and this is the most intriguing option, the truth lies somewhere in between. Something real happened that night. Something we're not yet able to understand. The White Mountains keep their secrets, and somewhere out there, perhaps someone is still watching us, with cold curiosity, with scientific interest, or simply with the question, are we ready to learn the truth? Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell. There are many more mysteries ahead waiting for their moment. And in the comments write, what do you think about the Hill case? Alien abduction? Mind games? Or something else entirely? See you in the next video.